You know that social media is a powerful tool for getting a lot done in business. Particularly, it's good for marketing, but it's also very good for selling. And you can use it if you know what to do. And so to give you an inside scoop on that, I've got a special treat for you today. I got my buddy Phil Gerbyshak joining us right now from his offices up there in Milwaukee, Wisconsin. Phil, thanks for joining us today.
My pleasure, Terry. Thanks for having me.
Well, you bet. Well, now, I know you work a lot with people on how they can use social media for selling, particularly. And so I'm interested in what you're talking about. Tell us a little bit about yourself and what you do and how you help clients.
Sure. So I work in kind of in the social sales space, not the marketing side. It's not just about storytelling, but really it's about conversion, relationships, helping people get social media to actually make some money, get some real return on investment. So I work with a lot of financial services folks. I work with a lot of small business owners. I work with folks who really want to maximize their social media return, and they probably don't have a big marketing department, so they can't do a lot of graphics, but probably they're pretty good at what they do. Hopefully it's not just sales for sales sake, but they're selling a good product or a good service, because the techniques and tactics that I teach are not scuzzy things that anybody can use to do things. You have to have a good product or service behind it. Otherwise, it's not going to work.
Yeah, exactly. Well, we know that making the bottom line look a lot better is a good thing. You know, when I went to business school, they told us that's a good thing to do. So I want to find out, what are some of the key points that you find that are working today? Because we see social media changing so rapidly. What's working today that didn't before? And then I'm going to flip it over, and I also want to hear what isn't working today that was working before and we could be left behind. So let's look at, what do you see working today with your clients when you work with them?
Sure. So the biggest thing that works is really getting referrals from folks that you already know. So you already have a network of 100 or 1,000 people. When you see them, that I see, hey, Terry knows somebody that I want to know, asking specifically, Terry, would you make an introduction to such and such person? And here's what we have in common. So making it friction-free for you, and then giving you that out to say, you know, I don't really know them that well, so I'm going to have to decline this. So that works really well. The other thing that works really well is participating in groups. So kind of taking the big social networks and breaking them up into more common interests or common passions, common things that are there, and taking part in a conversation, and then asking them for another conversation more privately. So the smaller you can break up these large networks, Facebook has got about 1.3 billion now. Twitter's got a couple 100 million, you know, LinkedIn's got a couple 100 million. You really have to break it down and make it a smaller network, because otherwise, you asked about what's not working. What doesn't work is just broadcast. Just barf it out there and think, oh, wow, people are going to be interested in my content. They're not. They're not going to be interested in your content unless you give them a reason to be. And it's not for content's sake. It's usually because of the relationship you have, or someone that they trust already has with them, because there's so much noise out there. Few content gets discovered anymore. Most of the time it gets placed in front of us, and we're like, oh, someone that I trust likes this content, and it already has some sort of juice behind it. It already has some people that are looking at it. So boy, I should look at that too. And it's got to be relevant as well. It's got to be relevant to what I'm interested in. On LinkedIn, what doesn't work is just posting your company's content every day in every single group. You know, it used to be you joined 50 groups and you threw the link out in 50 groups, and 10 of them would result in clicks, maybe, and 2 would result in business. And that, frankly, isn't the case anymore.
Yeah, I think it's true. I think we're seeing that it's much like the old days of broadcasting by the old spray and pray method. You know, just spray it out there and then pray that maybe something will work. You know, that's not there. We want to engage with people and really get to know them, and doing that. Now, one of the other things we see that I'm seeing a lot is, like, everybody's a publisher today, and it's kind of like TV. I remember years ago, back in the early 60s, when I was a little kid, there was like 3 television stations, black and white. That was it, you know. And so that was it, and you had to watch it at that time. And then it was really something when they came out with like 8. Oh my goodness, 8 television stations, and then 20, and then 100. Now we've got literally thousands of video options with YouTube and everything. It's really crowded, and the same thing there. So how do you cut through the clutter? What have you found that works well so that people will pay attention to you versus the 500 bazillion, I think that's the exact number, 500 bazillion other options that are out there?
Well, great imagery really is important. So we are filming this video, taking a crisp screenshot that's relevant, adding some text, adding a little bit beyond just the basic stuff is really important. I know when you're publishing on LinkedIn, that's where your audience is. Your audience, if you're doing B2B business anyway, that's where your audience is. So writing an article, it's great that it's on your blog. It's great that it's in your newsletter, but then you also want to put it on LinkedIn. And getting through that means you might have to ask for some favors. Now, not every time can you ask for a favor, but sometimes you might get an email, hey, Terry, can you help me out? I think your audience would be perfect for this. Here's why I think it would. Would you mind sharing this with your network? Mm-hmm. So that personal ask is really important. And then to cut through it, again, you have to be concise. No longer can you spend an hour to get to the point of a video. You notice we didn't do any intro here about who I am because, frankly, that doesn't matter. You'll probably do that in some sort of text or something after the fact. But candidly, most people don't care who you are. They want their content. They want something of interest. So you have to catch their attention. And then lastly, unfortunately, sometimes you have to say it more than once. So you have to kind of get over the fact that self-promotion is shameless, because it's not. If you believe that your content's good, you have to be willing to share it 10 or 15, 20 times in order to get it in other books, because at 2 to 4% per share, you're not reaching much of your audience. So even if you took the time to build it up, it's probably not still there. It's probably not interested. So finding other ways in are really important. And doing things like this, where I get to get in front of your audience, Terry, and you get to get in front of mine, is extremely helpful. So being willing to share other people first is a great way to get, to get attention of people that otherwise might say, I have no reason to listen to you otherwise.
Yeah, I think you raised some really good messages there. Those of you that are watching this, go back and watch that again. Write down what Phil has just said, because those are the kind of things that can help you in your business. It's not about blasting. Too often I've heard that. I mean, they literally use that term. We're going to blast a message out there. Think about it for a moment. Do you like to be blasted upon? We don't like that. And so what Phil is saying is really good, and we want to do that. Now, Phil, another question is, a lot of times people will offer what we call an ethical bribe. So in other words, to get some action, I'll say, I'm going to give you this free report. I'm going to give you this audio, this video. What are your thoughts on that, and any ideas or recommendations you have on those that can offer what's called an ethical bribe?
Sure. I do think it can work. It used to work a lot better because it used to be a lot harder to do. To create a nice PDF used to be very difficult. To create a nice video used to be very difficult. So you could say that a 12-page report was valued at $100 or $200 or $1,000. Well, that's frankly not the case anymore. You can go to Fiverr.com and get somebody to fancy up your PDF or do some quick video editing for $5. So that alone is not enough. So you have to give them something that really has some value. Often your absolute best stuff, but the difference is you might give away your best stuff, but when you follow that up with some coaching or some consulting or actually implementing the idea, that's what's valuable. So maybe follow, you might give them that download, but then give them a way to actually implement that. So maybe that's a 20-minute laser focused coaching session that then helps them implement one idea from that free ethical bribe. And then following that up, with some amazing offer. If you're an internet marketer, you're probably familiar with that. But if you're a small business owner, you need to think about what's the logical next step that's going to result as a result of this ethical bribe. So you gave them some information. That's great. They probably downloaded the PDF. It's probably stored in Dropbox or it's stored in Google Drive, and they're never going to read it. But if you get a follow-up and you say, okay, this is going to help your business, and if you spend 20 minutes with me, I'm going to give you one idea, that's going to get people not only engaged, but that's going to get them engaged in you and hopefully invested, so that it converts from someone who just downloads a PDF and probably sends all your emails to some newsletter folder to a customer, or someone who at least trusts you enough to be able to say, oh yeah, they gave me some really great ideas that I could implement. Now, whether or not they choose to implement them, that's a whole nother story. But if you get that one idea and it converts to business, you're going to be much better off. And that's really the best thing to do. I don't care if it's audio, video, it's a PDF, if it's, coaching, whatever it is, but it has to be immediately actionable.
Yeah, exactly. I think that's the real key is to make sure it's actionable. And I like the way you said that, getting some coaching. And of course, one of the things we can do today that we couldn't do just a little while ago is be able to reach people directly. I mean, like you're in your office right there in your home in Milwaukee, Wisconsin. I'm here in Orlando, Florida. We're connecting as if we were right there in the same room. And we're able to get the connection. We're able to talk with each other, whether you're using Skype or like we're using right now, we're experimenting with a little tool called Zoom.us. And it seems to be working well. Just out of curiosity, how's it coming through on your end?
Fantastic. Sounds great to me.
Yeah, we're getting good audio, good video. And so this is yet another tool that you can use for social media. And there's a whole lot more. I know, Phil, you help a lot of people, your clients, helping them really not just give them good ideas, but putting money in their pockets, being able to get money in the bank. This is really about business when it gets down to it, and doing it in a way that's proper. It's not pushy. You are a very giving person. You're a person I've seen that has helped so many people. And if someone says, okay, I want to get in touch with this guy, how do we get in touch with Phil there in Milwaukee, Wisconsin? What's the best way for them to reach you?
Yeah, the best way to reach me would be to send me an email. It's kind of old-fashioned, but it works.
Mm-hmm.
It's just phil@philgerbyshak.com. If you're a little braver, I encourage you to call me or send me a text.
Okay, and we'll have people from around the world calling. Tell us, how do they reach you in the United States?
Yeah, in the U.S., it's 414-640-7445. And if they like Skype instead, I'd encourage you. I'm Phil Gerb. I'm Phil Gerb just about everywhere. It's PhilGerb. Just feel free to reach out. If you find a social media service that there's a Phil Gerb with a smiling face and yellow glasses or green glasses, that's probably me.
Yeah.
So feel free to reach out on your favorite service. And if I'm not there and you think it's great, like Terry did with Zoom.us, hit me up. Let me know. Tell me about it. I'd love to hear about it.
Yeah, very good. And now for those that will be listening on audio on this, make sure we spell your name, first and last name, very slowly. Many of them are not English speakers natively. And so how do we spell your name, first and last name, very, very slowly?
Sure. So Phil Gerbyshak is PhilGerbyshak.
Excellent. Phil, you are a wonderful guy. I'm glad to know you and have you as a good buddy, and appreciate all that you do to help us out. Thanks for joining us today.
My pleasure, Terry. Thanks for having me.